Business news. Best news is Stephen Carroll's back with us here on set today. We're going to start with the price of oil. It jumped on Tuesday, didn't it, Stephen? How's it looking today?
Yeah, that's right. We'd seen those sharp gains on oil markets on Tuesday, prices rising to their highest levels so far this year. And that's ahead of an oil producers meeting this Sunday, at which it's hoped a deal could be done to curb oversupply in the market. Now, we are seeing prices fall back slightly again today. You can see here the picture on the American oil markets WTI index and on the Brent crude international benchmark too, but you're still looking at oil well above the positions we've seen in recent weeks. Again, investors looking ahead to that meeting on Sunday for what's going to happen with oil. That move generally in the oil price though helping things on the stock markets. European shares opening up fairly significantly, over 1% in Paris and Frankfurt. Oil companies among the big gainers, but mining companies doing very well as well, and that's because of new trade data from China showing that the imports were up by more than had been expected in March. Cause for cheer too on the Asian markets. You can see gains there across the board. Just the Kospi in Seoul was closed today for the elections.
Now, here in France, the government has published its outlook for the economy here.
The general message is steady as she goes for the French economy. The government's forecasting growth of 1.5% this year with a deficit of 3.3%. That's as had been predicted before, but it has slashed its forecast for inflation to just from 1% to just a tenth of that, 0.1%. And that's going to sound some alarm bells with economists over the health of the French economy. It's also worth pointing out that these forecasts have tended to be in the past on the optimistic end of the scale for the economy. So we'll see how those bear out later in the year.
And staying in France, the government has been cutting budgets for local governments in recent years, but that's left some communities rather short of cash, hasn't it?
The budget cuts in 2016 for local government amounts to some €3.5 billion, and that's left mayors in several cities to come up with the idea of asking residents to volunteer to pay more tax. Might sound like an unusual idea, but many people seem in favour. Thomas Waterhouse reports.
Tough times call for innovative thinking. The town hall in Terville is on the lookout for volunteers willing to pay more taxes. The 6,800 people living here will soon receive details of the plan by post. It's an idea the mayor has been working on with his finance team for over a year.
This tax is a voluntary contribution of money from a citizen, which corresponds to an extra percentage of the tax they're already obligated to pay.
It's money that could be used to help save the local cafe or pay for an extra music teacher. Spending that would be impossible without the extra help from residents. The budget for local authorities will be chopped by €3.5 billion this year.
We've tried to come up with a whole host of new ideas to help improve things in the community.
Among the town's budding harmonica players, the idea seems to have struck the right chord.
I'm in favor, but it shouldn't be too high. It would allow us to solve some of the town's problems. The state won't give us any more money, so we'll have to find some.
I'm not against the idea. For once, we'd be sure of where our money is going. If there is transparency, I think everyone is in favor.
This voluntary tax will be added to the 7% hike in local tax that's already set to take effect this year.
Today's business headlines for you now. Facebook is to open up its Messenger app for users to communicate more with companies. The introduction of so-called chatbots will allow users to contact businesses with queries or to make purchases. It's part of Facebook's efforts rivaling traditional call centres and cutting staff costs for companies. Ryanair is to introduce a loyalty scheme for the first time in over 20 years. It'll offer customers discounted flights and a free return flight for every 12 they book in a year. The move is a drive by Europe's largest low-cost airline to improve its customer service. And the co-founders of streaming music service Spotify have threatened to move thousands of jobs from Sweden to the United States unless the government there does something to help startups transform into bigger companies. In a blog post, they highlighted issues such as housing and education as needing urgent action.
Now, the corporate backlash over North Carolina's anti-gay law is continuing, isn't it?
Yes, Deutsche Bank is the latest to announce that it won't be continuing with planned expansion plans in the US state over the measure. The North Carolina state legislature passed a law last month that excluded LGBT people from availing of anti-discrimination protections. Germany's biggest bank employs 900 people in the state. It had plans to hire 250 more. But the lender says as a result of this legislation, they're unwilling to include North Carolina in their US expansion plans.
Stephen, thank you very much. Stephen, Business on France 24.